Everybody has a classic early start, I think. I was managing some different bars and was managing the employees and making sure everything was working. On the same time, I was working with the software. And I just clearly remember that I just had this like a classic click where it just came to me like, imagine how much work and how much work we're actually putting in to earn, let's say, 100 euros. There is so much work behind working those 100 euros. I saw that could be done in minutes.
All right, welcome and to today's episode. Today we have a special guest. It's not only just the founder of Eduvo, but one of the most profound tech entrepreneurs around.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So it's not every day I get to do an interview with the founder of the company I'm the co-founder of. So this one is a little different, but nevertheless, Frederik. So many companies today are SaaS. Can you please just elaborate to me what is SaaS?
Yeah, so basically SaaS stands for software as a service. So you can see a lot of other industries like restaurants, quite simple business models where you make some food, you serve it, etc., etc. SaaS, on the other hand, is more like that you some way figure out to sell software as a specific service. That can both be like specific for a specific niche. For example, the restaurants that you have a POS ordering system or a food ordering system. So I know you waited for some lunch previously, for example. So right there, you actually used some kind of software as a service to receive that lunch.
So what would be like, just if you were to give me some super known examples of recent SaaS companies that we all know of?
Yeah, but like Facebook is a SaaS company. Google is a SaaS company. Instagram is a SaaS company. Like some of the biggest companies in the world right now is actually SaaS companies because it's built on tech, it's built on software. It's an amazing business model, so to say.
Okay, so a lot of people ask us, how do we differentiate from SaaS and tech? Well, what's the difference? What is tech?
So tech can be many things. For example, if we start out with SaaS, that's more like a niche down of software. So that's basically when you offer software to a company or an individual that they basically pay to use your service. And don't get me wrong, like some people would say, hey, Frederik, I don't pay to use Facebook, but then you pay with something else. Then you pay with your data. That's normally how these kind of free to use services works. But tech is a bit more broad. Like tech is also hardware. It's also a lot of other relevant things that is like, it's the whole big title, so to say. That's basically tech.
So it goes way beyond like gadgets and apps.
Exactly. That's like all of it. Whereas software as a service and software as SaaS, that's only like everything within the software category.
You touched upon briefly like how it differentiates from like how SaaS differentiates from the normal company structure.
Yeah.
Why is SaaS so beneficial in today's world compared to like, let's say, a geographical location company?
That there's several ways why you can see SaaS is probably the best business model out there. One of them, now we talked a bit about restaurants before. Like one of them is like, I actually used to work within the bar industry. And it was funny when we looked at like the accounting and how we were managing the costs and everything. Then it was quite normal that we had like 90% in expenses and 10% on the bottom. That was because we had like 30% in the goods we had to pay for the beers we sold, and we had 20% of the salaries, etc., etc. If you would look into software, it's a bit different. It's often that you have 90% in profit and 10% expenses. You have the hosting, etc., etc. But like the amount of expenses you have compared to the potential is so different. It's so much more potential in terms of scaling. And as you said yourself with the markets, it's much easier when you don't have like a physical location to just scale up. Like you have big companies like McDonald's, Starbucks, etc. They have been great to basically scale out the concept. But it would be much faster if that was a digital concept because you can basically just turn up the ad spend in that specific country, translate your site, and then you're good to go.
So before we dive like into the business aspects of a SaaS company, I'm curious, where does that interest and curiosity in tech comes from? Because you've been in tech for how many years now?
I've been around 10 years in tech now.
How did that start?
it's a fun journey actually. I growing up, I always been having a so I say like interested of tech. Like I always liked the formalities about it, both video games and how the world worked. And like I think when I was 6 years old, I asked my parents why didn't they use tech to basically use sun power in like the lanterns that's outside. Simply because like starting out thinking about how the world works and how we can increase the whole working environment with tech. So it started quite early on. But me as my career is more like, as I said before, I took a bachelor within some marketing and technology. And after that, I actually moved to Spain, where I actually started my first software company.
Was there like a defining moment for you where you just knew, yeah, this is what I'm going to be like occupied with?
Yeah, 100%. As while I was working with when I was working with the restaurant industry, and when I was studying, I was actually working full time in the bar industry as well. I was managing some different bars and was managing the employees and making sure everything was working. I did a little bit of that when I moved to Spain as well. On the same time, I was working with the software, and I just clearly remember that I just had this like a classic like click. What just came to me, like, imagine how much work we're actually putting in to earn, let's say, 100 euros on this bar industry. Like, there is so much work behind working those 100 euros that maybe, let's say, take like a couple of hours of work, like if you just look pure profits, which I saw that could be done in minutes when it comes to SaaS. So it's more like the effort is so smaller when it comes to SaaS. So that was like my big change to focus on software instead.
You've always been quite entrepreneurial.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. So like that, yeah.
So how old were you when you first like decided, now I'm venturing into becoming an entrepreneur inside tech?
Yeah, but it's like everybody has an classic early story, I think. I don't know if it's too classic, but for me, I did the same as a lot of other entrepreneurs did, like beginning to sell lemons and juices and everything like at the street in the early 6-7 years old. After that, I actually started doing a lot of markets. So I'm from the countryside originally, where we have a lot of different markets throughout Denmark where we actually sell different stuff. And I eventually ran out of stuff to sell. So I actually started going around to the households nearby and asking if they had some stuff they wanted to get rid of, because then I actually could sell it in my little stand at these kind of markets.
Oh, that's very interesting. So how old would you say you were at that point?
I think like between 8 to 10 years, I started doing these like market sales. Yeah,
very interesting. So when would you say you ventured into tech and you started to becoming an entrepreneur in that space?
Like around when I had some other smaller projects. I actually started out a website with my brother when I was 18. This was basically a web shop where we wanted to do toothbrushes on subscription. And like my brother is like really financial kind of guy. He's like has a financial background and works in real estate, so he would like take care of all the operations and all the financials. So on that hand, I needed to take care of all the tech. So that was actually, I think that was like the first venture into something like business minded within tech. So I was actually in charge of building a website, getting everything done with like the structuring of the business for the technical aspect. And at that point, I knew nothing about it, but that's how you start out basically. So you start out and then you basically figure out, how do we build this website? How do we build this website? How do we build the web shop and the whole managing system from it?
What were some of those early challenges you would say in your career as an entrepreneur inside of tech that you really that really got you thinking, oh, this is hard?
There is an old saying with code that if you look at the code, it basically disrupts. So that's probably been one of the biggest problems, like along the way. Not only starting out, but it's sometimes you will face challenges when you work with code, and this like, of course, starting out, then you maybe figure out how you set up the whole cart function, but then the product images is not showing, and then you need to figure out that problem. But like as you move along, you get better at it, and then of course you can launch a product in the end, luckily.
Let's talk a little about your mindset, because obviously I've heard about your early days as an entrepreneur, and what is it that drives you? Because one thing is being knowledgeable and insightful within the tech industry, but what is it that motivates you?
For me, there is a lot of different things that motivates me. One of them is mainly that you can make a difference. It's like we're all given a specific amount of time on this earth, and my biggest fear is actually that let's say I die tomorrow, and nobody would remember you. Of course, you have your closest friends and your family that would remember you some years, but like after 100 years, they're gone as well, and then nobody remembers you.
So there's a lot of legacy.
It's a lot of legacy. That's the best way you actually can describe it. Like to actually create something that can put down some legacy. So you actually can, in 500, 1,000, 2,000 years, can actually see, okay, this person was actually a thing.
And would you say, has that always been the case, or has it like changed over the years, like why you're doing it? I mean, often when you're a kid, you also have obviously a lot of joy for the creative process when you're maybe, whether it's coding or it's content creation or whatsoever. But has your motivation changed as you've grown older as an entrepreneur?
The creative process has always been a big ambition, but I think one major thing that's actually changed is more like the mindset about getting the money. Like I think as a lot of early starting entrepreneurs, that you only think about the capital, you only think about the money you will make in the start, where you get to a certain point where you figure out you made some money and then you're doing quite good, but it's not all about the money. It's more about the legacy we talked about, and it's more about that you're actually happy for what you're doing, that you actually find a business model and you find some kind of business you can work with and a concept that you love doing. I think that's much more important than the money behind. The money will come, like as long as you're doing something great for the world.
And one of those things I know inside of your entrepreneurial career that you've also been involved with, we're going to get back to obviously your resume as an entrepreneur, but you've also been involved in other ventures and in the past from what you're doing right now. I know you've been involved in an agency also at some point.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right.
Can you take us through like what kind of agency was that?
So basically, starting out with my entrepreneurial journey was actually as basically 90% other entrepreneurs starting an agency. So we actually specialized in basically delivering websites and software solutions. We did some lead generation and ads as well, but it was mainly focusing on building websites and building software, so to say.
What were the challenges you experienced when doing an agency? Because we have a lot of people obviously like now calling into us, but like who have agencies and who's now sharing some pain points. Can you take us through what you experienced when you were running an agency yourself?
I would say scalability. It's there is some agencies out there that's scaling quite good and is doing a great job, but I would probably say that 90% of the market really have scalability issues, and it all comes down to the employees, because the agency model, you need to speak a lot with the customers, and besides the project management things around that, you also need to basically produce the product. So you need to produce the website, produce the lead generation, etc., etc. I know a lot of people that basically have been involved in some of the biggest agencies in Denmark, at least. And what's actually crazy to see in these kind of agencies is like you can have an agency of four people and you can have an agency of 40 people, but they're basically making the same profits in the end, because all the results that you actually generate extra on being an agency with scaling and being a larger team is basically just like being erased by being a larger team. So you're basically just paid out in salaries instead of paying it out in profits. So that's definitely the biggest challenge, I would say, for agencies, that it's really difficult to scale where you actually scale the profits as well. Yeah, you can easily scale and go for 4 to 40 people, but are you actually earning more money from that instead of like if you just change business model?
I know you obviously are helping a lot of agencies now transition over to SaaS concepts.
Yeah.
Can you take us through, why do you believe like there's a need for that, and why do you think it's a perfect way to alter the business model?
Yeah, but the best transition you can do from having an agency is 100% doing a SaaS company. Like imagine that you have to basically be on top of your clients all the time, and you need to basically do some kind of productivity or do some kind of time investment every single time. You need to build a website for them, you need to do an ad campaign, etc., etc. If you do the software solution instead, like one thing is that you have 90% in profits. The other thing is also that you're basically focusing on building your own product. You focus on scaling your own product. And when that's done, then it's basically just like you scale it as much as you want, and you don't really have to be accountable of other clients and think about how they're doing. You only think about your own product, and then you can basically double down on everything. Wow. And then you can basically focus on your own product instead of focusing on everybody else's product.
What are the most common mental blocks you experience from agency owners who was considering this transition?
Yeah, but the main mental block is 100% the thing that they have to manage 10 different clients, and they actually don't scale their own product. Like that was actually one of the worst things for me, that I can see every day that I helped maybe 10 different businesses, and I could see that they scaled and my work was good for them. But I always thought that I'm helping their company scale, and I'm helping their valuation. So when I could see some of these companies got investments and got basically exits and earned a lot of money from their work with the company, that would never happen for an agency. You would never, like, you have some purchases and some strategic purchases, but it's not so common. It's like, because normally, like, if you value an agency and if you look at the agency, it's basically you. If you're the agency owner, that you the value. With SaaS, it's a bit different. Then it's actually the company itself and the software you build. That's the value.
So touch upon that, because we obviously now established that there's a lot of, like, let's say, financial differences to running, whether it's an agency or a SaaS. But I want to touch more upon the operational parts, because as you just covered now, as an agency, basically you're hands on a lot of different clients at the same time helping them scale. How does that operational process look inside of a SaaS company?
So in the operations, like you can actually narrow it a lot down, and we even have AI now that can narrow everything down even further. So a lot of people think that they need to be a huge team. They needed to have a lot of developers. They need to have salespeople, marketing people, etc. It's not necessary. Like, the most important thing is probably that you just have the vision and you have the drive, and then from that you can basically learn the development yourself. There's a lot of no-code tools out there. If you want to develop, there's a lot of cheap developers out there, as long as you know how to approach them. And the most important skill that you actually can have as a SaaS founder is just that you're good at selling. As long as you can, like, have some good speech talents and you can talk good to businesses and relate with, if you get them on a sales call, then you're basically good to go.
That's obviously very interesting. When we look at the agencies as we know them right now, where do you think in 5 years from now, agencies as we know them, with like with a founder of the agency, do you think in 5 years we'll see less like agencies run by like a founder and more, let's say, SaaS concepts that's taken over?
I think actually most agencies will be gone in 5 years. I think that either a lot will transition into in-house specialists. We actually, a couple of years ago, we saw that we actually transitioned more into the freelance agency. I actually think that will change with the development of AI. I think we will have more in-house working people. That a lot of the big venture businesses I know, they would much rather right now have their own marketing manager than having a agency sitting and marketing theirs and a lot of other clients. And on the same way, the development we have with SaaS and technology and AI for that, so to say, I think that a lot of these agencies will eventually transition into being a SaaS company instead. It's much more that model that the bigger businesses will buy into.
Let's talk about numbers.
Yeah.
Because you've already established that the profit margins when running a SaaS company can be quite magnificent, actually. Yeah. Whereas as an agency, you're going to have quite high operational costs.
Yeah.
But I want to touch upon the valuation part.
Yeah.
Because you said before that obviously doing exits as an agency is quite rare. But as a SaaS company, it's not. So what's the difference? Why is the valuation much more interesting when running a SaaS company than when you're running an agency?
So when you're running an agency, you're basically managing a lot of different clients, and you're basically managing a lot of other tools. You're managing a website builder for building the website. You're managing a Facebook and Instagram for building the ads. So it's you never use your own product, own tool. You're basically just trading your time for money, and that's not worth so much. So you are the product. It's you and your team and the people around you that are the product. You can sell an agency, it's possible, but you mainly sell your clients. You mainly sell the revenue and the subscription models that is involved in an agency. So let's say we go out there and build an agency, then we probably look at their yearly revenue and then times it maybe by 2 or maybe by 3, because that's kind of normal in that sort of area if you want to exit on an agency. On a SaaS, the other hand, it's a bit different. You're not really buying the team that much. Of course, the team will follow along if you buy a SaaS, but it's much more the product and it's much more the SaaS and software itself, because like there we actually have a product that doesn't rely on a specific team and a specific skill set to run this one. Like, of course, the founders will be better to run it eventually, but it's not really that you need that specific team to basically run that product. So you basically just have a digital asset here that just keeps making your money every single month, and that does that you can actually have a valuation on this one between 15 to 20 times the yearly revenue.
So the difference in a sense can be, as an agency, you're making money as you're working.
Yeah.
And with the SaaS concept, it's like you said, it's a digital asset that's basically running on its own. It's an asset, meaning that it actually generates your money.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. So if I were to give you one strong advice to somebody who is considering transitioning from an agency to a SaaS concept, what would it be?
Like, you don't have to go all the way. Like the worst thing you can do is actually, I would say, just like quit your agency and then just go all in on SaaS. Like if you already work as an agency, or if you already have an agency and you're earning money with it, then you also have the perfect skill set to basically starting to try out with SaaS. The first thing I will do is actually to figure out the perfect idea. Try to either see, like if you are an agency, you have a lot of experiences with different industries as well. So let's say I'm an agency for window cleaners, then I probably have seen some issues that these window cleaners is facing. And if I can find an idea there, then I would actually take that into account and then try to ask these customers or window cleaners, like, do you like this idea? Because as soon as you can get like the first 5 to 10 people to actually say, this is actually a product I would love, then you could start like doing the market validation. I actually look into some cheap ways to actually build a minimum viable product.
So let's say somebody comes to you with an idea, and we all know that everybody who has an idea thinks it's the most amazing idea. You now talk about market validation. So one thing is asking the window cleaners, what would a validation process look like in order to obtain some sort of product market fit as the get-go?
Yeah, but I think like it doesn't have to be such a big market. Like I'm sure that if you have an idea and you look into who is the customers for this idea, and you ask 10 different people that basically match those customer criteria, behalf of that feedback, you 100% have something to go for. Like if 90% of them say that that's a terrible idea, then it's probably not something you should go forward with. But if 90% say that that's actually something I would invest in, then you should probably look more into how you can basically build up the whole foundation around it.
And how do I gather that intel, that data? Is it just asking people, or
You can find relevant people on LinkedIn. You can touch out to a network. You can even Google search. And for example, window cleaners, as we talked about before. If you do a quick Google search on window cleaners in your city, then you probably have the first 20 people you actually can speak with. And a funny little way you can do it as well, like you can always call and say you're from a school project or something like that. They normally tend to be a little more easy to talk to if you do like that.
I see. And as somebody who's now been inside of tech for many years, how many tech, like, because you've seen it, how many different types of tech and SaaS concepts, companies have you been involved in to this point?
I've been actively founder of around 10 projects, and then I've been involved in more than 300. So I have a little saying about what works and what doesn't work in the specific environments.
And involved in those 10 that you've actually been either founder or co-founder of, you've also been involved in some exits.
Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
Take me through that.
Yeah, but where to start? Actually, we had a social media scheduling tool. We actually started out for in the beginning of COVID. Where we actually figured out that we could automate a lot of different things that Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these kind of channels, where we could see that a lot of the businesses, at least in Scandinavia, didn't really have any solution for automating these things. This was before that Instagram and Facebook actually created their own kind of scheduling tool. So we actually built a scheduling tool for all these things and automations within DMs, etc., which we basically scaled out to selling in both the UK, but also in Scandinavia.
And that was your first major exit?
That was the first major one. I've been a part of a couple where it's we basically just sold to smaller prices. I also been a part of some that didn't go so well and basically just ended out in a big minus, more or less. But that's probably the bigger one. Another project of mine that I'm involved in is actually a Norwegian startup, which is a huge medical company. We've been really privileged and lucky to have some of the most talented and business-minded people from Norway involved in that one, where we basically is trying to do some changes within the whole medical industry, how that works, and that's a really interesting product as well.
I know, obviously, also from your journey, that one thing that you are combining your knowledge of tech and SaaS and everything you've been through. One thing you're truly passionate about is education. And as we speak right now, I know you still have quite a big community inside of where you're still offering your teachings. Like how many is that at?
As per the recording date, we are 326 students in the SaaS mentorship right now.
So what's the SaaS mentorship?
So the SaaS mentorship is basically it started out with that we had a lot of people actually asking out how they get started with building their own SaaS. So we actually created a community that basically takes every single entrepreneur or consultant or people that just basically want to get started in SaaS, take them through the journey from A to Z, and basically taking them step by step to how they can actually validate the idea, create their own tech company, and then scale it afterwards.
And who's this for?
This is for everybody with the ambition. I wouldn't say it's from everybody. Everybody, as we don't accept people that is not ready to learn. You need to be ambitious. You need to be ready to learn. We have some different coaches there that basically helps you take you through the whole journey. But one thing that's really important for us is also we don't want to work with people that don't want to be taught. So it's a community for people that comes to learn. It's a community for people that want to build their own tech company, and then basically just in one big family, we can see each other's tech companies scale. Some people also find each other's partners and business partners there. So it's a great community.
Can you maybe just share a little about some of those like unique cases that you've had inside of your community of some students who've maybe gone on to create something amazing? Can you share a little more about that?
Yeah, of course. Like we actually have one student that created a website builder, and that's like a bit similar to like the classic WordPress and Webflow that you know. But what he did is actually he was an agency owner before, building websites. What he did was actually building his own website builder. Where he did all the websites in. So he actually quickly scaled to around 20K per month, which I know he's way surpassed that today. But beside that, he actually offered the SaaS itself, where you can like build your own website. Then he also offers to build the full website in that like platform itself, and that only increases the valuation. So he actually took away to turn his agency with a valuation to ×2 per month to actually ×15, because that everything is packed in his own SaaS code.
And this was obviously an agency, but you also have like individuals who just comes to you sometimes, right? And say, hey, I don't actually know much about this. I don't have an idea. But yeah, you still also manage to take them from A to Z, you say?
Yeah, 100%. Like you don't need an idea. Then what we're actually saying a lot is like you don't need the perfect idea. Like a lot of people think that you need to have this revolutionary idea before you actually can get started with SaaS and get started on building your own business. But what we actually teach is a lot of different creative ways to find ideas, but also look into what is the other people doing. Like you can see a lot of people in both the US and the UK where they have a lot of more competition. And one of the best things you can do is actually to try to find a product that is doing well in one market, and then you can actually focus on a competitor to that product that is mainly have a slight better features or some switches of your liking, and then actually go all in on another market where there's no competition.
It makes a lot of sense. This whole journey, obviously, we've talked about a little bit of your upbringing and to your entrepreneurial journey. And you said you've been involved in some projects that maybe also ended up in some minuses. If you were to give an advice to maybe your younger self or somebody who is now 18 years old and who basically also have an interest in tech, what would your first advice be?
Just get started. Like it's quite simple. Like for me, I'm actually just a bit sad that I didn't start before. So I probably spent a little too much time in the whole agency phase, but again, it's also a learning phase. So you wouldn't know if you didn't do it, so to say. So it's also completely it's all a process. But for me, like the day I started with tech is like that's the best for me at least. Er det ved at være nu? Ja, det er det.
Det var den sidste spørgsmål.
Ja.
Det er fordi, hun har ringet til mig 48 gange.
Ja, og vi tager det. Vi slutter bare det af nu. Jeg tænker, det er fint, det her. Super.
Sidste. Ja. One more. Yeah. Obviously, also, we touched a little upon your motivational drivers, and you said legacy was a big part of it. What is it? What kind of legacy do you hope to leave? Like, obviously, none of us hope that you're leaving this world tomorrow, but what kind of legacy as a man, as an entrepreneur, do you hope to leave?
Like, so my recent project right now is actually Eduvo, which is like an education platform where we basically try to help a lot of businesses, individuals, but also minority areas. So I definitely hope and work towards that we can actually basically try to change the whole way education works right now, because like education, the whole process of how education unfolds hasn't changed for several hundred years. Like it's crazy to think about. It's still that you sit down on a table, then you just listen to someone. Like I want to take it a bit more like further and try to integrate the new technologies we have as AI and a lot of other features we actually haven't thought about within modern education. So I would definitely love to be able to do a change on that front.
Frederik, thank you so much for
sharing
your thoughts, and I'm sure that you and hopefully me alongside you will leave it and impact in this world.